right, so Becoming Unshakable with Vince Barlow. There's the book. And I think that, in my opinion, I bought it on Amazon. It was what I love about your book, Vince.
What's that?
Is this?
Yeah.
I love that. You know, I hate those books that are like this thick,
I know.
and then it becomes work to get through them. I really enjoyed. I like the way you laid it out, and
good.
So we went through our first session, and hopefully, let's do this. I don't know if someone's going to watch this one first and not see the other one. So why don't we do this real quick again? I can do this. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, Vince?
Okay.
Just do it.
Hello again. For those who haven't been here, I'm Vince Barlow. Let's start that again. Hey, everybody. I'm Vince Barlow. I'm an executive coach and trainer, and my main focus is emotional intelligence. And what I've found is that I'm coaching people in corporations in any walk of life. The more they grow their emotional intelligence, the more successful they are. Better people leader, happier, all that stuff. And so that's kind of my world. I live in the EQ world.
Excellent. Thank you for, again, another great session. And I think we're going to have many more to come. So this session, during the last session, you had a brilliant idea. And I know you only get one of those every 10 years. So we feel very privileged. So you want to walk us through a self-assessment of our emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm going to get some. Let me get some blank paper. No, you know what? I'm going to write in the book. It's my book.
You could do that. Yeah, there should be a chart in there on one of the pages where there's the self-assessment.
All right, let's boogie.
Okay. So, again, just to reiterate, the thing I want you to think about, picture what we're going to go through in terms of capacity. We believe there's 15 areas of emotional intelligence, 15 things that make up a healthy human. And so it depends on how you were raised, what you went through. We all have a different level of emotional intelligence, and it's okay. There's no shame. It just is what it is. Mm-hmm. But we have to, this is our starting point, understanding the package you got and then who you want to become. So I'm going to walk you through these things, and I just want you, if you could, on a piece of paper or in a little note, whatever you want to do, mark down, when I give you the definition, am I strong in that, average, or weak? And again, weak does not mean you're a failure. Weak just means you have low capacity in that for whatever reason, and we're going to strengthen it. So,
wait a second.
The first one.
You know what?
Go ahead. What?
I'll bet you I could, and I can break into the video, but I could do, there's a thing called Mentimeter.
Uh-huh.
Would it be valuable if I put up a Mentimeter, like a QR code or something, and said, look, you can follow along and enter strong, weak?
Yeah.
I'll do that. All right. And what I'll do is I'll pause this session here, and I'll just like break into it and say, hey, everybody, here's the QR code. Put in your assessments, and then we'll see what everybody in our audience combined.
Yeah. We could do that.
If they're strong, weak, or whatever. Oh, cool. Yeah. We'll do a emotional intelligence assessment for our viewers.
There you go. I love it.
Continue.
So, again, there's 5 big areas, 3 sub areas under each one. So we're starting with self-perception. This is how you see yourself. And again, your self-awareness. So number 1 under self-perception is self-regard. So jot down self-regard, and then I'm going to ask you, are you strong, average, or weak? So in self-regard is basically, I feel valuable even when I'm not performing. So a person with self-regard has this sense of like they're allowed to be here almost. They're not worried about this person or that person. They have this sense of kind of belonging. A person with low self-regard, no matter how many times you compliment them, no matter how many times you say thank you or whatever, it's like pouring water into an empty well. They always feel like they've never done enough. They're always, and so that's low self-regard. Too much self-regard, and I think I'm God's gift to everything. And so we're looking again for a balance. So rate yourself. Are you strong in self-regard, average, or weak in self-regard? Okay. Our next area is self-actualization. Self-actualization is your ability to take who you are and to create something out of your life or improve yourself. And so a person with self-actualization was able to, oh yeah, I wanted to go to school and get that degree. And so, yeah, I did that and I worked an extra job and I studied real hard. Like those are the people that made something of themselves. Low self-actualization, it's like, let me give you an example. Tom, you and I both know probably people we knew in high school. They might have been smarter than us, more handsome, more talented, maybe there was someone like that. But they can't get up off the couch and they're still stuck right back there in high school. They've never made anything of themselves because they have low self-actualization. Gotcha. Too high of self-actualization is a person is too driven and they don't have relationships. All they have is successes. So we're looking for balance. Are you strong in your ability to improve yourself? Are you average or are you weak?
Yep.
The next area is emotional self-awareness. This is simply, and I mentioned on the last call, do I know what's going on inside of me? And I mentioned the engineer who had told me he had two emotions, really, really angry or really, really happy. He didn't know anything else. He wasn't sure how he got between them. Okay. So are you pretty aware of, I know when I'm sad, I know when I'm happy, I know when I'm joyful, I know when I'm fearful. I'm pretty aware of what's going on inside of me. And so rate yourself, am I strong, average, or weak in my self-awareness?
And that doesn't mean you have to, you know how to deal with it. It's just you're aware of it.
That's right. It's just being aware of it's there. Exactly.
Gotcha.
The next area then is our self-expression area. And so what we want to look at is, number one is emotional expression. Can I share the full range of emotions in a non-destructive way? So I'm all right being angry, but I don't have to rip everybody to shreds, but they can see, I can share my anger. I can also share my tenderness. I can tell everybody, man, I'm having a rough day. My mom's in the hospital. I can share that and people are like, oh, you showed up expressing your emotions. Some people show up like a cardboard cutout. They never give me any clue of what they're feeling. So rate yourself, strong, average, or weak. Am I good at sharing emotions, average, or weak in that? The next one is assertiveness. This is a very interesting part of emotional intelligence. Am I able to show up and just be myself? So let's say everyone's over here saying, I like green, and you have no problem saying, well, no, I really like purple. Mm-hmm. Some people, and that's very simplistic, some people don't show up. They'll be at a meeting and everyone else is talking, and they're always like, oh, I'm not going to say that. And, oh, I'm not going to say that. They're not very assertive, or they even have a good idea, but they don't show up. And so think about yourselves. Are you strong in assertiveness, average, or weak? Now, again, we can be too strong where everyone hears your opinion all the time. So strong is I'm able to do it without hammering people to death. Rate yourself strong, average, or weak. The next one is interesting. It's similar to assertiveness, but it's independence. So imagine a person with independence, they do their work and they do it with confidence. The way I describe it is, let's say, Tom, that you were, I'm a coach in high school and you're on my baseball team. And during batting practice, you just kill it. You hit it out of the park. And I'm like, dang, this guy is good. But in the game, Tommy steps up to the plate and his hands are shaking and he watches 3 strikes fly by. That's low independence. They have this voice in the back of their head that says, you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
And so low independence. So rate yourself. Am I strong, average, or weak? But remember that if you heard the story in the last one, too much independence, and I always think I'm the only one that's right. So we don't want to go there. Strong, average, or weak. Okay. The next area we call interpersonal. And the first one is interpersonal relationships. Basically, this means I actually truly care about people. I don't just see projects. I don't just see problems. I see people. And if I'm a leader, I'm not leading projects. I'm not leading problems. I'm leading people. Mm-hmm. I'm in the people business. And so what we're looking for is interpersonal relationships just lets me know, what people really matter to me. So are you strong in that, average, or weak in that area? And the reason that's a key, if you want to put me in leadership and I have a team, but I have really low emotional or interpersonal relationships, my people feel used and manipulated rather than led because I don't know how to lead people. So anyway, that's that one. The next one is empathy. Empathy is not feeling bad for someone. Empathy is truly the ability to feel someone's pain. And so you need to think about, am I actually able to feel people's pain? Am I strong, average, or weak in that area? And so rate yourself on that. And then the last one in the interpersonal is social responsibility. Now, this doesn't only mean I take care of the poor or the homeless or whatever. Social responsibility is my ability to read the room. So when I walk into a room, I'm able to pick up what's going on. I can see, so let's say, Tom, I'm watching you and you're walking into a room and you have 10 team members that you oversee. They're all in the room and you walk in. If you had good social responsibility, I would watch you and I guarantee you within 2 minutes, you touched each person, said, Joe, hey, how you doing, man? You look happy. How's things going? Mary, you doing all right today? And within 2 minutes, you would have touched every member of your team and let them know you saw them and valued them. That's social responsibility. So rate yourself. Are you strong, average, or weak in the area of social responsibility? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Our next area then is decision making. The first one is problem solving. Now, some of you engineers, if I put you in a room with a problem, you'd be able to solve it. No problem. But notice it's problem solving when emotions are involved. A lot of great problem solvers lose their ability when emotions are involved. So I need you to rate yourself. Can you stay pretty steady and calm, even if emotions are crazy, and still see the problem, see the solution, and walk towards it? So rate yourself, strong, average, or weak in problem solving.
That's a tough one right there. That's a tough one.
Especially for engineers.
Yeah.
because they like solving problems.
Yeah,
They just don't like people.
And then you have to go back and you really have to think about a time in your life when you were emotional and then had, you have to understand how you react emotionally.
Yeah.
To be able to answer that question. So you really got to do some thinking. Anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then the next one is reality testing. So, Tom, let's say you got a text from someone that was a little confusing, and over the weekend you didn't get to respond to it. But if you filled in the gaps of data that wasn't there, and you started reading into the text, and you started making up, oh my gosh, that person's really pissed at me, or blah, 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 and you add all this stuff, not only did you add things that didn't happen, you felt the emotions that went along with something that never happened.
Yes.
So people with low reality testing tend to fill in the gaps, and they make up stuff rather than, I'm not going to think about that till I can clarify what you actually meant by that email.
So I'll tell you what, and here's the thing. I can give multiple examples in my life where I had an individual where I had a pre-existing, like say you and I had arguments and debates about something. And let's say that I'm just like, you know what, you are the hardest person and you're this and you're that. And I see an email that you send to me and carbon copy a bunch of people. Yeah. And it irritates the crap out of me. And I'm just fuming. And I show that email to somebody else sitting next to me. I say, read that. And they read it and they go, well, he just wants to know what you're going to do tomorrow. And I'm like, well, that's not what he's saying, because you read into it so much and and it's like, no, that's his way of digging at me on this. Just gets you so inflamed. I mean, I've experienced that in my lifetime, man. It's like,
it's so funny. And that's what we call reality testing.
If
I can't control my brain and I start filling in the gaps, oh my gosh.
Is there
so, Tom, remember when we were kids, the mousetrap game, the silver ball dropped down through that? If that silver ball starts, there is no stopping it because it's going to flip the thing and the diving board and all that. And pretty soon the whole thing goes, and then the mouse gets caught. What we work on when I coach people with reality testing, they have to grab that ball before it drops.
Yeah.
You got to stop it and say, I'm not giving into this game in my head where I'm going to make up reality. I might be right or might be wrong, but I'm going to be pissed off either way unless I let the reality actually play out.
Yeah.
That's a very tricky one.
It got to a point, and if I just look back through my history of there's not too many people that I've had challenges with, but or in those instances of where you have that email or that dialogue where you have to really just control yourself. I sometimes would take the approach of don't respond until tomorrow, because I would know that if I write an email right now based on how I feel, it ain't going to be good for anybody. So I know which column I'm in on that one, but let's go.
So strong average your week on reality testing.
Yep.
Then the third one under decision making is impulse control. And again, it is what it says. Am I able to control this urge? I got to have that, pull it back and let the calm heads prevail, or whatever we want to say.
Right.
Can I control myself? And that's back to that self-control we talked about before. Am I able to control my impulses? And so there's a lot around that.
Okay, so would a quart of ice cream count as not being able to control the impulse?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So since you brought that up, I'm going to share a quick story.
Yeah.
On impulse control, I was working through my EQ years ago, and one thing came up for me. I was stopping pretty often at McDonald's for a hot fudge sundae.
Okay.
And it's for this period of time, it got a little compulsive. Like I couldn't pass a McDonald's without getting a hot fudge sundae. And I'm like, what's going on? Maybe I shouldn't do that. And then so I try to stop, shame myself. That didn't work. Then my wife says, hey, honey, I noticed you're kind of eating a lot of hot fudge sundaes. Maybe you should stop. That didn't work either. So I started hiding the plastic cups from her as the solution to the problem. Yeah. But then I thought, let me figure out what happens right before I want a hot fudge sundae. So I decided I'm going to become a student of myself. I'm just going to observe. So all of a sudden I realized, I really want a hot fudge sundae. I'm like, what just happened one step before?
Right.
Well, Tom, I'd been in this season where my wife and I were taking care of a lot of people, some relatives, other stuff. We were kind of going above and beyond. And I realized every time I did something nice for someone and they didn't thank me, I had to treat myself. And so I caught myself as like, so I paid a little more attention. It's like, that's funny. Every time I did something for someone and they didn't thank me, I'm like, I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to treat Vince because Vince deserves a treat for what he just did.
I deserve this.
And so what was funny is I decided, I'm going to try something silly. When I do something for someone in that season, I say, hey, Vince, self-talk, well done. You went above and beyond for that person, and they will never thank you. And it's okay, but you did a good job.
Yeah.
My urges for hot fudge sundaes went away. When I want them, I get them, but I don't hardly get them at all.
That's pretty cool.
But I realized two things were at play. One was impulse control. I had to realize, what is this impulse? What is this drive in me? But mine also went back because I felt devalued. It went back to self-regard. So I noticed these two were tied together.
Sure.
I felt like, you're not valuing me. You didn't thank me. I did all that work for you and you didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to McDonald's. I'll show you.
Because they're going to thank me. I love it.
So anyway, that's how that works. Just an awareness of what are those impulses in me and why do I have to have them?
Absolutely.
So rate yourself strong, average, or weak. Okay. Then the last one is our stress management. And we got 3 here. Number 1 is flexibility. Flexibility is basically, let's say you're working on a team and you're convinced you're right, but you decide I'm going to bring it to the team and I'm going to invite everyone so that people feel like this is a team. And so it's tied to independence.
Yeah.
But my flexibility is, can I handle, even if I thought my idea was best and they didn't choose my idea, can I still fully participate? Or do I kind of sabotage? Do I hold back? Do I not really give the best of me because they're not using my idea? So that one is, flexibility. Am I a flexible person?
Yeah.
So rate yourself strong, average, or weak.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because there are those, a lot of the people that watch my channel are involved with committee work and safety and whatnot. And we all have a perception of what we feel is the right thing to do.
Yes.
And then we're like, if you're on a committee, it's like, well, you want to get your way and you want people to either vote or not vote on something.
Yeah.
So there is like a portion to where you say, look, I'm going to try to drive this.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to try to convince people to go this direction because you feel, or you're being directed, but you might directly, feel this is the way we need to go. And what they're saying is technically inaccurate, technically wrong, and you have to stay the course. So it's a balance.
Yeah. And so
really
too much flexibility.
Yeah.
I'm a doormat. I'm just there so everyone likes my vote.
Right.
We don't want that. Too little flexibility, and I'm autocratic, and I'm that independent guy who's always right, and I never listen to anyone.
Yeah.
When we balance it, we're like, okay, I listened, but guys, I'm telling you, we've got to lean towards this. That's not inflexibility, but so that is doing your job, but we're trying to avoid the edges.
Yeah.
So too little, and I'm on a committee, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll vote with, I like you this week. Yeah. You got my vote.
That's right.
Or, I'm over here and I'm right all the time, and everyone thinks I'm a pain in the ass.
That's
so
right.
We go back and forth. So it's looking for that balance. So Would you say you're strong, average, or weak?
Okay.
So the next one then is stress tolerance, and it is what it is. How well are you aware of what stresses you and what the impact of that stress is? And I paid a high price for being not very good at this, because 10 years ago, I had a stroke, was left side paralyzed, and it took me, because of the type of stroke, it took me 8 months to learn how to walk again. Wow. And I still have some weakness in my left side. So I was ignoring the symptoms because they call blood pressure the silent killer.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm a happy guy. Everyone who knows Vince thinks he's nice, he's fun, he's kind. I must be doing great. Why do I need to take my blood pressure? Blood pressure is only for the lunatics.
Yeah.
But I was burying all of this stress under Mr. Nice Guy, and I stroked myself.
Wow.
And it was not good. And I'm telling you, for all you people listening, if you ever thought, hey, I wonder what it feels like to be paralyzed, check it the frick off your bucket list. You do not want to know what it's like to wake up. And I got up, Tom, and I thought my arm had fallen asleep, my left arm. So I get up out of bed and I collapsed on the floor, and I realized, gosh, I can't feel anything on my left side, nothing.
Wow.
And I couldn't get up. And I'm like, it's not fun.
No, I can imagine.
So all I'm saying is what we want to be aware of is understand, do I know what stress does to me? And do I know am I masking it or am I dealing with it? So rate yourself. Am I strong, average, or weak in the area of stress tolerance?
I gotta plug this in 1 second.
Okay.
There. All right, I'm good.
Then the last area is optimism. And that's kind of a funny one for emotional intelligence, but this really is about, do I choose happiness? Because honestly, I could just read the news every day and lock myself in a freaking closet because there is so much crap in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And life does suck for a lot of people. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I have every right to be negative and bitter about. And so I need everybody to rate themselves. Are they strong, average, or weak? Now, too much optimism, I'm like Pollyanna. La, 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 everything's fine all the time. No. Too little optimism, and I can't see good in anyone or anything.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking for is balance, but we need to live a life where I'm leaning towards, you know what? I have two choices. I could wake up every day pissed off and be pissed at everyone I meet all day long, go to bed and wake up and do the same thing the next day and be miserable. And Tom, you and I know a lot of people who've chosen to be miserable all of their freaking life. And it's their choice. So back to the title of the book, Becoming Unshakable. No one or nothing outside of you is your problem. I can be a joyful, loving, kind person, even in a crappy life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's your choice. It is your choice, because we can look at everyone else's life and say, man, if I was like them, I'd be happy. No, you wouldn't.
That's right. No,
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
If you're negative, you will be negative. I've seen the richest people who are biggest pains in the butt. I've seen CEOs who finally got to the top of the pile and they're freaking miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So optimism is your decision to just say, you know what? This is the life I got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work towards better things, but I'm not going to be miserable. And I'm not going to be a pain in the ass to be around. I'm sorry, am I allowed to say ass on your
oh,
show?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So here's that brings back, I can remember, man, when I was younger, I don't know who it was. I can't remember who it was, but the individual was poor, and her house was immaculate. Right.
Yeah.
And her outside, the grass, everything was beautiful. And she made the comment to me. She says, I don't have much, but it doesn't cost anything to keep the house clean, to keep the outside clean. You would think she was a millionaire. I mean, in a small home, but
yeah.
But it speaks to, I think, the optimism, because I remember that. I just wish I could remember who it was. The impression, I was too young at the time.
Yeah.
And I can remember sitting at the kitchen table and her saying, I don't have much, but what I have, I keep clean.
I love it.
And I was like, that is, if you think about it, life deals you cards and you deal them and you play the cards that you're dealt. And she was very much in tune with the fact that, look, I'm not a millionaire, but you're not going to come in my house and it's not going to be dirty. It's going to be clean. When you see my house, it's going to be presentable. Even if there's paint that's peeling, she says, I scrape it off. And when I get money to buy a gallon of paint, I'm going to paint it over again. So I was like, that stuck with me for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And all of us, you know what? All of us have gotten some crappy hands dealt to us in different ways. And what I call it is, I could punch my victim card, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I could say, was it fair that at age 52, I had a paralyzing stroke? Is that fair when guys who weigh 400 pounds eating pork ribs every day, and how the frick did they not get a stroke?
Exactly.
And here I'm a guy that
Yeah.
I eat pretty good and I, not hugely overweight, and I didn't get a stroke. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, all of us in our life, we could punch our victim card.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, my family went bankrupt. We got kicked out of our home. Back in those days, there weren't the laws protecting us. And so we were literally, they threw your stuff on the curb.
Yeah.
And you're out. So I have a whole bunch of things in my life that I could show you my victim card. Oh, I'm certified victim. Look at me.
Certified.
I got it. I have these key things that make me a certified victim. And you want to live that life? It's freaking miserable and no one wants to be near you.
That's right.
Or you could decide, you know what? I'm a good person. I'm worth being around. I love people. And I'm going to take the life I got and I'm going to make it good. Like that lady did with saying, it might be a tiny little house in a bad part of town, but man, you're going to look at this house. Someone inside cares about this house and loves it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that is, that's optimism. I mean, to set aside and accept reality and then say, you know, I'm moving forward. You know, I say things every now and then. Bobby Joe and we'll be laying in bed in the morning and I get up and I'll say, she'll look over and I'll just go, you know what today is? She'll go, what? I'll say, it's the first day of the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
You know? And if you got to just look at it and say, look, all this stuff that's happened and all that, you got to put it behind you and consider today's the first day of the rest of your life and move on and be, like you said, be optimistic, not overly optimistic.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's the pre-test.
Okay.
So now go back over, and I'm going to pick on you right now.
Yeah.
If you were going to pick 3 areas after I share those 15, Tom, what 3 areas would you say, boy, I think I could grow my capacity in 3 areas? What would you choose?
I would pick the reality testing. I think, was it reality testing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what I keyed off of is I can at times read into things.
Yeah.
And it'll get my emotions going. It'll get me going. Right. And I sometimes let that, I have to be very self-controlled. So here's my thing is I'm aware of it. I know that I am responding to something. I can recognize, okay, this individual, I just get an email and I know, in my mind, I know what his intent is. I know where he's going. At least I think I know where he's going. Right.
Yeah.
And then I just got to step back. I got to say, okay, just calm down and maybe wait. And sometimes sometimes how I react, I'll give you an example. I had an instance of 2 engineers who disagreed on a position. Okay. And there's an email. I send an email out with a document saying, I like your opinions on this. And I put some of the key items, and the email response from the one individual was, you're an idiot. Okay. The first thing, you're an idiot. I can't believe you would say this. Did you not go to school? Blah, 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 blah. And then was like point after point after point, very, in your face, very aggressive. So now I think it was his overly aggressive. This is my issue. I did not get angry. I laughed. Okay. Yeah. Because his response was so absurd. And so my response was, thank you for your thoughts on this. And, I really appreciate your input. And then I responded, right? But I wasn't irritated because it was like a person standing up in front of you, calling you a name. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What gets me is when they are very more, how would you call it? What do you call that when you're camouflaged, right? So it's subtle. It's those orchestrated things where you go, I know what he's doing. I know what I know the direction. That's the stuff that really irritates the crap out of me. And that's when I get, okay. So that was the first one. Okay. You said 3. All right. The other one was, okay. So I went from, and I'm looking at my marks. Yeah. So on independence, I said I was weak, and then I went to strong. Now, I want to explore that one because it was like after you had started.
That was like stepping up to the plate, swinging the bat.
So here's the reason I originally, when I heard of independence, put it this way. I can sit down. I don't think I rely on other people enough. So I'm the type of person who, and I'm not sure where the category, I'm like sitting there going, okay, no, if like say I was going to ask you to do something and I would say, okay, Vince, hey, I need you to do this. And I knew I would do it well. I knew that if I wanted that done, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And when I get done, it's going to be to the way I want it to be. Yeah. Right. And which I would hope others would want it to see. And then you come back with something that's not quite what I wanted. Yeah. Okay. I'm of the opinions, and I it's sometimes to a fault on certain things where I just don't delegate enough. I don't want other people to. I just don't do it, and I don't know if that's too strong of an independence. A place that I need to work on to be less independent and more dependent. So it wasn't a weak area. I think I'm overly strong on the independence to a point where I'm just like, I'm going to do it myself.
Well, then maybe that'd be a good one to put on your list of, I want to dig into that and get to know it better.
Yeah. I would put that one. So then reality testing, and then where was the third one? Where was the flexibility? So I like to think I'm flexible. Yeah. Okay. I like to think that I do. I change. I can be very adamant sometimes. Yeah. When I know what I know and the direction I want to go. And I don't know if sometimes that's I question sometimes I just say, okay, am I not being flexible enough? Yeah. I don't want to be too flexible. I don't want to sit down and just change. I don't want to be a reed in the wind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I know.
Yeah, you want to be strong. Yeah. But you want to know why are you where's the inflexibility or flexibility coming from? So that might be a good one to look at.
Yeah. And so, so I don't know. When I looked down through the list, and I changed as we were talking, I went like, oh, I'm average here. And then I went, no, I'm strong here. Like emotional, third one, emotional self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm just generally an emotional person. Everybody has their things, if you came into this room and you started crying, I'd be crying right with you. Okay. Yeah. Some people can be stone faced and I am sometimes.
Yeah. You connect emotionally. Yeah,
I do. I connect very emotionally, and it's tough when I'm on a safety perspective because I'm talking about like Lucas Ritz. And Lucas Ritz was a child who died in a marina accident. I'm telling you, I can't get through that description without getting choked up. Yeah, no matter how many times I've talked about it, I can't disassociate myself from that emotion. That's right. And I don't know if that, sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing. So, but just off the bat, those would be my three areas.
Good. So here's what we would do next is then, let's say I was coaching you or you're working on it. In the book, there's a chapter about each one of those. Yeah. And let's say I was coaching, I'd say, look, before we talk next time, just read each of those chapters. And I mentioned it, be a student of yourself. All I want you to do, don't solve the problem, just gather data. So engineers generally have a data gathering time before they solve the problem.
Can I put it in a spreadsheet?
They want to really know, do I really know what the problem is?
Yeah.
And because you and I both know there's a lot of times I can solve a problem and it actually isn't the right problem to solve. Like that guy with the breaker and the person with the AC on the roof. He may have said, oh, you know what? That kitchen coffee pot on the third floor pops breaker sometimes. We fixed that. Just go ahead and pop the breaker back on. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I solved a problem and I caused another one. So all I would say to you before we talk the next time is just be a student of yourself. And just say, and just notice situations and say like, wow, that time, why did I give in that meeting? That was weird. I know that answer wasn't right. Why did I give in there?
Yeah.
What was it? Someone in the meeting that I was trying to impress? Like, what was it? So when a person's aware, emotional, intelligence, they know why they do what they do.
Yeah.
Which is back to the first step of EQ. So anyway, that's kind of where we would go on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a journey of coming up with, after your observation, then we come up with an action plan. And that's more in the back of the book. It's like, okay, every time I'm around this person, I'm overly flexible and I always give in to their way. Okay. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Why am I doing that? And we might think the problem started with flexibility, but you might really find out, like I did about the ice cream sundae.
Yeah.
Wow. There's something about that person that makes me feel so small, and I want to so hard to please them. So now all you have to do is just say, okay, that is a problem. So how do I see what the root is and fix it? And so that's kind of how we go through that whole portion of it is, so step one, observe. Step two, gather data, really get the whole picture. And step three, what's my action plan? Yeah. So let's say independence was yours, and at meetings, whenever you were prepared, you were really ready, but there was something about it like you just pulled back. You didn't swing the bat.
Right.
All you want you to say, so just observe yourself, and you're like, oh my gosh, I did it again. Why did I do that? Then I would ask you the question, Tom, what voice did you hear in the back of your head? Yeah. And you might say, oh man, there was one meeting I really screwed up. I'm not going to do that again. And so you literally are the one causing the problem. It's no one else's fault.
Yeah. And so the independence thing. So here's I'll give you an example. You might say, like, let's say that I said to you, or you said to me, hey, Tom, I need I don't know, an assessment of XYZ.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, well, I somewhat know what XYZ is. Yeah. What I do is I would do that assessment. Okay. Now, what another leader may do is say, I'm going to call Joe Schmuckatelli. I'm going to say, hey, Joe, I need you to do an assessment of this situation of XYZ. And then in my mind, I would know, okay, I know where it needs to be, but then I would be expecting you to do that assessment. And then you bring it back to me and then I critique it. And then when we get it to where, or I get it to where I think it needs to be, then I would go, all right, now I'm ready to give it to my boss. And then I would portray it to my boss and say, okay, this is the assessment that I did. Right. Yeah. And then, and so I'm sitting there, in my opinion, and I this is how I justify a lot of things to myself. I need to be able to answer questions. Okay. Yeah. So I need depth of knowledge of the answer that I'm giving. So I just can't delegate. Okay. Yeah. And then sometimes I go, I don't like to delegate because the people that I'm working with, I know their plates are as full as my plate. Right. Yeah. So who am I to say, hey, I need you to do this assessment? right?
Yeah.
So I tend to say, I'm going to take this on, and then I'll pour on the evening hours, the weekend hours, and everything else to get the assessment done. But then when I'm sitting in that meeting and they ask the key questions, I'm able to answer those questions because I've done all the homework. Now, you can say, well, that's a good thing. But I could also say, well, that's a bad thing because what didn't you do while you were pouring all of that effort into answering that one question? And was that where you should spend your chips, so to speak?
Yeah, that's good. And these are all the awarenesses. And that's why emotional intelligence isn't a rigid science.
Yeah.
It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It really is, how do I know how to respond based on what's going on around, but to show up in a powerful way. So if I was coaching you, I would say, Tom, my goal for you is that you show up powerfully in every situation without being a bully, but you show up powerfully. And so that's kind of what I like about the goal here with being unshakable is, how do I be powerful, be aware of what the all the possible variables that are happening in this problem, and sorting through and say, no, I think this is the right way to go. And so, in electrical, I told you my dad was an electrical engineer. So he had his favorite little meter box thing, little black thing he got. And so he could read all the different things. And he could tell me, oh, this is, we're looking for ohms, we're looking for volts, we're looking, whatever.
Right.
He knew how to read it, and he had data that, to the naked eye, I didn't know if there's a freaking ohm in that line. I wouldn't even know what it is. Right?
Yeah.
But he knew, and he knew how to find out. And when he learned how to find out, then he made better decisions. All I encourage people with emotional intelligence is learn what's really happening in the room that you're not seeing and no one's seeing, and pick that up. So you got your little meter reader and you're like, oh, here's what's going on in that line.
Sure.
Oh, here's what's going on. All I want when people get more powerful is they're simply better at seeing, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what's happening in this meeting. This person is powering up, whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's what's throwing this meeting, or no one's paying attention. Like, I don't know. So my goal for anybody I coach, widen their ability to see what's really happening in meetings and in interactions, and to know how to be powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, because you need to figure out how to react. And you can't, I don't know, sometimes you can teach that, but every scenario is going to be different. So it's just like safety. We teach the fundamentals. We teach hazard awareness and all that, so that when things dynamically change, all right, I know I just introduced this, and I know you can't rehearse it. You can't say, oh yeah, I remember this from class. Yeah. And this is how I'm supposed to deal with it. You've got to teach the fundamentals and be aware, and then, let your instincts take over. And
that's right.
And then
you make better decisions.
Then you make the right decisions. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I like the process. I'm going to have to take that.
So here's what I'd like to do. I do have to, if we could wrap up this section.
Yeah.
My challenge to anyone who just participated, even take those and just before they watch our next podcast, just pay attention. Pay attention at home. Pay attention at the store. Pay attention at the bank. Pay attention at work. And just say, huh. And I only want them to use one phrase. Isn't that interesting? Around that person, I always feel like a stupid little kid.
Yeah.
What the frick is that?
Yes.
Or around this person, whatever it is.
Yes.
I just want you to be aware that so Tom, you understand this. In the room surrounding us,
Yep.
all the waveforms that are happening right now in our room,
Oh, the RF. Yep.
the data that's flowing through this room right now,
Mm-hmm.
and with the right meters, you're going to pick it up.
Yep.
What I try to do is help people expand their emotion meters and just pick up things and be like, oh, I see what's going on here. Then I decide, how do I want to react? So my kid could be throwing a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
If I stop before I do my first reaction, which is, you're yelling, I'm going to yell louder.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to hear
yeah.
dad go into dad voice?
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you. But if I pull back, I'm like, what is the issue here?
Yeah.
Now, it might be the kid just needs a real timeout, or he just needs a
Sleep.
strong hug from dad, or go to sleep,
Yeah.
or, whatever it is. I want all of your listeners to be as good at discerning emotional intelligence as they are with reading an electric.
That's a good point. That's a good
Okay.
point. Yeah.
They
absolutely.
could all be powerful. So my challenge to all of you listening, if you want to join us again, take what we just said and just observe and write some notes down. Be a student of yourself. And when we get back together, we're going to dig a little deeper into, what do I do with this data? And how do I become more of the person that people want to follow?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Awesome.
I love it. That was great. Perfect.
Very good.
Excellent. All right. And hopefully they will continue on our journey. So,
Yeah.
again, Vince,